Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Hunt the Wild podcast. I'm your host, Adam Bowlds, and today I'm joined with Brett Morris of Blue River Bowhunting. Brett was on actually episode one of the Hunt the Wild podcast, and I wanted to bring him on and do a little bit of recap of his season. We're going to talk about maybe a couple things we covered at first in the last episode, or the first episode, rather. So if you didn't catch that episode, we'll cover kind of maybe why Brett got involved in bow hunting and podcasting. But if you've already heard it, maybe you can skip forward and yeah, we'll get into it. How are you doing, Brett?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad for a Thursday. I'm ready for the work week to end. I thought I was gonna get to do some muzzleloader hunting this Saturday, but looks like I have to go to work on Saturday. So
Oh no.
it's all right. I'll get back behind the camera Sunday. So hopefully it all works out.
Um, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. We had you on episode one. You took the podcast virginity. So I told you in that episode that we'd get you on and see how your season went. So it'll be fun to look back and see like kind of what you said then and maybe what actually played out. But
Yeah.
for anybody that didn't catch episode one, can you kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from, that sort of thing?
Yeah. I'm from Indiana. Me and my buddies started Blue River bow hunting a couple years ago. We bought some filming equipment and got into the whole YouTube and that sort of thing, and just focused mostly on bow hunting, whitetails. But we also do tons of other things: duck hunting, turkey hunting, anything that gets us outdoors and lets us have a little bit of fun. But we always wanted that one extra thing that let us have some fun after that, and the podcast is a perfect platform to do that. And I have a blast doing it. Sometimes it can be difficult finding people to get on and do that with you. Maybe they're a little scared at first, or maybe don't understand the podcast game. But once you get them on there and you get them talking, then they have a blast, and they don't. They always want to do it. Like my neighbor Adam, I finally got him to do a podcast with me, and now he's hooked. He's texting me every night. Hey man, we getting on a podcast tonight or what? I'm like, well, we gotta line it up, man. But we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, it's funny. People are always nervous to come on, and then always at the end of the show or after the show, we might talk a little bit, and they're always like, "Man, I'd love to come on for part two. If you need somebody for part two." I was like, "Wait, 2 hours ago you were scared to death to come on here. Now you're begging to come back on." I was like, "Yeah, it's a fun time." How did you get involved in bow hunting? Is that something you picked up as a kid, or is that something you picked up later in life?
I got into deer hunting in general probably when I was 12, 13 years old, and I would go with my dad, my uncle, and my grandpa a little bit, and I just started going with them on deer hunts, mostly during gun season or whenever they wanted to take me and that sort of thing. And then um, my father gave me a Oneida Screaming Eagle was my first bow ever. And, I was just having fun with it, shooting in the backyard with everybody when they got their bows out and stuff. And I just felt in love with the challenge, really. Anybody can shoot a deer with a gun, or whatnot. And it was just I enjoyed challenge in general. I think that's why I enjoy filming whitetail so much, because it's such a big challenge to get everything on film. I mean, you almost have to do more than the person behind the weapon when you're behind the camera to get everything on film. But I think I just fell in love with the challenge of everything, and it just started running through my blood at a young age. And I'm 32 years old now, and I haven't looked back, and I enjoy every possible second that I can be behind my bow, which we'll get into a little bit later. But it's such a challenge for me, and I love every second of it. I actually had a guy on my podcast, the last episode that I did, and he was talking to me a lot about traditional archery. And I think I might dip my toes in that next year a little bit. I think I'm going to get me a longbow or a recurve and dip into that a little bit and make it even more challenging than it already is.
Oh man, I've never actually shot one of those, but I thought about it too, but I'm not sure I'm ready to graduate to it. So you can tell me maybe how your season goes with that, and maybe I'll play on my next move off of that.
Right.
So you started a podcast just kind of like as a thing to do with your buddies, but did you have like a mission or like a real reason? You just wanted to like help people out, or you just like kind of just bullshit? I
Well,
mean,
I got
is there a
into it.
deeper?
I got into it to help somebody out. Actually, they have a podcast and still currently do. I don't know if they record as much as they once did, but it was all about predator hunting. And I basically became like a producer slash tech guy for this guy that was doing this. He had a badass studio. I mean, blows mine completely out of the water. Soundproof room, $1,000 mixer, $1,000 microphones, the whole 9 yards. And he wanted actually me and my buddy Ryan, who started Blue River Bowhunting, to join his what he had going on. And at first, it sounded really fun, and then I realized that we put in all the work on it, and he didn't. And I didn't like
Mm,
that too much, so we kind of, I said, dude, we can totally do this. We can talk for hours on hunting. It doesn't even have to matter what it is. I said, let's get some podcast gear and let's do this. Well, everybody maybe not have the same mentality I did, so I kind of took it upon myself to do it. I'm like, hey, I told the wife, I said, I'm getting some podcast gear. I mean, I have a computer. It maybe not be the best computer. We might have a little tech difficulties today, but I'm trying. And I edit everything on this computer, so I normally don't have any problems. I don't know why I'm having problems tonight, but I just kind of took it upon myself to wing it basically. And first episode I had on my podcast, I had a guy from Wisconsin that I've kind of met on social media, and we did I don't know, it was maybe a little over an hour or so, and I was hooked. And I'm like, dude, I can do this a lot, and I like to have the regular guy on. I'm not aiming to get a big personality on, or like somebody that's got a big following. I've had a couple people that have big followings on my show, but I want the regular guy, just like me and you. I want him to come on and talk about deer hunting, bow hunting. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that. At some point on my show, I'm gonna get into a little bit of duck hunting because I'm big into that. Turkey season, I have some huge guests lined up for turkey season already on my show. Like, I can't even wait to get into it because I even like bow hunting turkeys. And I can't wait to get into it, but like, I'm just winging it, and I'm having a blast doing it. And I get great feedback from people that may not even be into hunting or may not even be in the podcast. Like, I exchange DMs with a guy from Michigan, from the UP, that helps me out with some of my cell cams. And I asked him, I said, hey, would you like to come on and do a podcast with me? He says he's not really much of a podcast guy. So I sent him a link to one of my shows. I said, listen to this, check it out. If you're interested, let me know. If not, no big deal. He sends me back, not much of a podcast guy, but I really enjoy listening to your show. I like the regular guy theme. Really cool. Can't wait for the next episode to come out. So I'm like, well, that's cool. Somebody that's not in the podcast checks my show out. It's like, well, that's kind of cool.
yeah, it's sometimes sometimes you just don't know. I don't get a whole lot of feedback, so like I really have no idea who listens. It might just be just us,
Right.
I really don't know, but it's still fun because we pick each other's brains, and
Oh,
I feel
absolutely.
like even if no one listens, I feel like I learn a lot from my guests a lot of
Well,
times.
like me and you, we text back and forth quite a bit when it comes to our podcasts and guests that we're having on. And I know that you're going to be honest with me. And when I know that you're honest with me about it, I'm going to be honest with you about your show. Like, hey, man, I cannot wait for your next episode to come out. This guest was incredible. Or, it was so-so. The guest maybe wasn't really super into it, or, he kind of sounded like a tool or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you never know how people are gonna. Especially, I like to ask people if they've ever been on a podcast too, because you never know how somebody's gonna react. People always, I mean, this from filming, hunting and stuff. People act different when there's a camera in front of
Oh,
them or when
absolutely.
they're
You
being
put a you
recorded.
put a you put a camera in front of somebody and they act like they or a 2-year-old child with like all hyped up on sugar or something. Like I finally have my best friend Ryan, who does all this with me. I finally have him comfortable in front of a camera, and we haven't seen shit in front of a camera this year, and it's driving me nuts because I finally have him like comfortable enough to do an interview and like be good at it and like do the surroundings and everything. And it just this season when it comes to filming has been an absolute shit show.
Do you feel like he's gonna, if you guys don't keep filming and stuff and keep like if you have, let's say, a couple months off, you think he's gonna get camera shy again, or you're gonna have to just keep it in front of his face?
Honestly, I don't know. Like I want to. He took a weekend off 2 weeks ago, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
One of the properties that he kind of has permission on, the duck hunt, was full of birds, and he only has kind of permission through somebody, and that somebody said, hey, the birds are loaded. I was actually still deer hunting with the neighbor, and he sends me a picture, and the whole bed of this truck is loaded down with geese and ducks. I'm like, shit, I would have liked to go just to, switch it up for a weekend, and that's exactly what he said. He said, I love chasing deer, but there's nothing like switching it up sometimes and getting behind a shotgun and blasting some of these birds. And I wish I could have just been there just to film it, because I know what it's like to be in that situation, because it can be a great thing to shake it up sometimes. Like, you're so used to being quiet and worrying about your scent and this and that, and then you get in a duck blind with a bunch of guys and you're sitting there kind of hooting and hollering, having a good time. All of a sudden it's like, oh, get down, here they come,
Yeah. Brett's been kind of struggling to get some content on his YouTube, and I have been really, really, really struggling because I don't know, for like 50 days straight, I didn't see a buck within range. But I kind of just tossed the camera this year and just kind of, it was either like film and probably not kill a deer, or kill a deer and ditch the camera. But we've been kind of talking about doing a collaboration, but we both like to film, so we're not sure who's going to hunt and who's going to film. But
I think we did a duck hunt and we both filmed, and it was like, hey, let's just wing it. And like, I could put like a GoPro on the end of the A-frame blind, and we're sitting in there, and it's like, well, I got the GoPro rolling when we shoot. Roll as much footage as you possibly can roll until I say jump up and take them, and then we jump up and pop some ducks or some geese. I think that would be fun. Or late, muzzleloader into late bow. Maybe we can get lucky. I know you and I have both killed a buck in Indiana, but maybe we can go on a little doe patrol and pop some does or something. It'd still be fun, and it would still be better than anything that I've filmed this year.
You know me, I love that doe patrol. I can't
absolutely.
Stop whacking those does.
Dude, that TikTok was the best. You're like walking up on the doe, and then you're like, there's another one. You just drop your phone. It's like, boom.
That was a brand new phone, by the way. 2-week old iPhone.
Oh,
but it's totally worth it. Oh, totally worth it. So I want to jump into your 2021 season. I want to start right at the top. Opening day, October 1st, Indiana. It's hot as hell here, if I remember right.
Absolutely.
Can you paint us the picture? Stand location, weather, what property you're on, anything like that? Kind of just paint it for our listeners.
Absolutely. I got it pulled up on my phone right now. So I diary every hunt for the most part. I wouldn't say I got bored with it. I forgot to do it at some certain point. When you're on the grind, man, you can forget things. But for the first month, I basically have everything journaled in my notebook. So we hunted what we call the pasture in Shelby County. It's an old cattle pasture from back in the day. It's growed up. There's no longer cattle in it, surrounded by crops. It was 81 degrees.
Ooh.
Yeah, hot. With a 5-mile-an-hour wind out of the southwest, which out of the south there is great for us. We don't want anything out of the north, or really either east or west there, because there's a big block of woods just to our south of where our stands are located, which if we have any winds out of the north, our wind's going to be blown right into that block of woods, which we don't want. Barometric pressure, looking at it 30.9, which was pretty good for opening day.
That is pretty good, yeah.
Usually you don't see anything that high right off the bat. And then sunny, hot, partly cloudy. Cut beans beside us. They were actually cutting the beans as we were walking in.
Oh,
And Ryan was like, man, I don't know about this. They're cutting the beans right now. I said, fuck it, let's go sit. What's the worst that's going to happen? And that's actually the only YouTube video I have this year is from the first week of archery season in Indiana. And you can see the combine rolling through the field, cutting the beans. I just let him go. Just let him cut the beans. It ain't going to hurt nothing. I've seen lots of deer with the combine working. That don't bother those deer. And we sat from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and we saw 3 bucks. We had 3 little bitty basket racks come out of the south of that block of woods, and they actually came directly underneath our stands,
huh?
which was awesome because it was kind of fun to watch. Being the first day of season, that's
Yeah.
always fun to watch.
It got you fired up, but
Oh, absolutely.
you weren't after those, were you? You weren't.
No, we were not
one.
after. We were not after the little boys at that property.
So, what were your expectations for opening day? Did you have like some nice buck had been coming in there right at dark or something, or are you just
Yeah,
kind of going in and?
absolutely. We had like 3 or 4 different bucks on camera there that were shooters. I mean, they were absolutely the top of our list. Actually, our number 1 shooter came from that property. We haven't seen him since about the second week in October or so on camera. Still haven't seen that deer since. It's like this property holds all of our big bucks all summer long. And then come September 25th to the beginning of October, they disappear and they never come back. I don't understand it. This is only like our second or third year hunting this property. I still haven't figured it out. Like, this property is great. You got crops all around. You got a big block of woods. You got water. And I don't understand why they don't stick around, but they don't stick around. But I would say as far as expectations, it probably exceeded my expectations. I didn't think I was going to see shit in 81-degree weather, to be honest with you. And, seeing 3 bucks, whether they're big or small, seeing 3 bucks walk directly underneath me right where I just walked in, that's great. I mean, it shows me that I didn't do anything wrong that day,
That was going to lead into my next question. I was going to say, do you feel like you should have done anything different? But no, I mean, it's just
No,
kind of
I don't think
the draw.
Yeah, I don't think I did anything that I regretted that day. And we've hunted that place 3 years in a row on opening day. That's just kind of been our spot to go to because it's so wide open. And we put a food plot in there this year, which I think they've absolutely destroyed in the last 2 weeks, but we just can't seem to be in there at the right time, which I'll get into a little bit of that later when we talk about some stuff that's kind of been going on the last few weeks. But I don't think I did anything different. We played the wind. Everybody plays the wind, right? That's what you want to do daily when you're going out to your stand. You want to play the wind. So we played the wind exactly the way we needed to, with a south wind, and I don't think we could have done anything different. We couldn't even have hunted a different property probably because it would have played out almost in the opposite favor of everything that we've wanted all year. Besides that property, we want a south wind on that property, and we got it opening day, which I don't know if we've ever got it on opening day, but we tried to walk in there as quietly and slowly as possible so we weren't absolutely just drenched in sweat. Were we a little sweaty when we got up in there? Yeah. It's every bit of a half-mile walk in. I got the camera bag and, everything loaded up. Our stands are already there and stuff, but I don't think we could have done anything different that played out in our favor that particular day.
How do you fight the heat and the bugs and all that early season? I know some guys do different stuff. Like I really like to carry scent-free baby wipes with me because I usually am going in 1 mile to 2 miles in, and by the time I get in there, I am just drenched. And it's just kind of nice to wipe your face off, maybe your chest off with that stuff, and just kind of like breathe for a second because you're sweating to death. But do you do anything like that? You carry a thermocell or anything?
I don't carry a thermocell. Honestly, I don't think I had any problems with bugs early season, but I made a purchase 2 years ago, I believe. I'm a big scent blocker guy. I love all their stuff. And we'll get into a little bit of that stuff later when I talk about some stuff that went right for me this year. But scent blocker, I'm huge on scent blocker. And they have some early season gear, and it was on sale a couple years ago, and I bought it. So the long sleeve that I wear early season is basically damn near see-through. It's really lightweight. I got the pants to go with it. They're really lightweight. So that helps me out when it comes with the heat. And I do exactly what you say. I have dead downwind wipes, and I actually have a foam that we use. So we'll get up there, wipe ourselves off, hit ourselves with the foam in our hands and wipe it in our face, cool ourselves off a little bit. It don't matter what you do. When it's 81 degrees outside, it's hot. But I think those things helped us out. We got up in there, hit ourselves with the foam, kind of cooled ourselves off. He had his bow. I had the camera. We kind of just got up in there like, even breathing a little heavy when you get up in there. That's your first time putting it all together. We're used to putting the camera set up together, but it's our first time. We're rusty when it comes to it. Yeah. Got it all set up, and we had plenty of time. We got in there at 5 o'clock, and we didn't see those deer until the last half hour, 45 minutes with daylight left. And I think everything worked out for the best.
So kind of moving on to I don't know, maybe mid-October, you start seeing some deer, right? But you just can't seem to get on them, right? They're too far away. You can't get a shot, whatever.
It was always something. It was always they were too far away. We got all these cameras set up with our, spy points, not to shout them out or anything because I won't ever be using them again. But I'll be switching that up a little bit. But, we would be here and they would be there. Or we would switch it up the next time like, okay, well, we're here. Well, then they're there. It was always something. It was always the opposite of the choice we made up. And I even joke sometimes. It was like, hey, let's just do the total opposite of what we want to do because then we'll see something. But it never panned out. I don't understand what we did wrong. But our early October was such a shit show. It was, the whole first month of our season was a shit show. This has been the weirdest deer season I've ever encountered of 19, 20 years of deer hunting. This is the weirdest season I've ever had when it came to everything. The temperature, the barometric pressure, the population that I saw, the ag with everything. It was the weirdest season I've ever had as a deer hunter, period.
Were they pulling the ag out super late?
No, they pulled it out super early. Opening day, they're cutting beans out, and our other Shelby County property, which we call the bottom, it's just this big river bottom. And he cut the first couple weeks. I'd have to pull it up on my phone when exactly he cut it. But I would say we got 3 or 4 hunts in and down on this bottom before he cut the beans. And we saw deer every time. He cut the beans. We didn't see our deer since. It was the weirdest thing. Obviously they're going to be eating on those soybeans or whatever, but it was really weird how that played out. And not to jump forward on you too much by any means, but Saturday or this past Sunday, we hunted a morning at the pasture. And then we drove by the bottom, and they were cutting the corn on the other side of the bottom. And it's been standing the whole season. We're like, dude, let's get in there. I don't care if it's midday. Let's sit. Let's see if the combine pushes these deer out of the – because we have some absolute giants on camera down in here during the rut. I'm like, dude, let's just sit there until he's done cutting the corn. We sat there almost 8 hours and didn't see one deer.
Oh my God!
Which tell me that will take a toll on anybody. I don't care who you are.
Did you guys ever? I know you're filming and stuff, but did you guys ever think, man, they're coming out here, we're over there. They're coming out here, we're over there. Do you ever think about splitting up?
It's obviously crossed my mind a little bit sometimes, but I'm so focused on trying to get that content. Like I was talking about on my last podcast with Troy Delaney from West Virginia. And we've been drinking. It was one of those episodes where he's having some beers. Me and the neighbor were having some beers. It was just a good old time. Longest podcast I've ever done. And, I wouldn't say I got emotional but I got a little sentimental somewhere in there on that podcast, and I was saying that I put too much pressure on myself when it comes to filming because I've had such good luck filming in the last few years for the YouTube that I put so much pressure on myself to make these cool videos for everybody to check out. And then when I don't get that, I'm almost like down, like I'm almost depressed because I try so hard and I put so much effort and money and blood, sweat, and tears in it, and then when I don't get it, it almost makes me depressed almost.
It's like a kick in the face.
Oh, it's a punch in the face, by Mike Tyson. You know how much it is to, get in on this filming gear and spend the money. And when you don't get behind your bow and you just film for somebody for the longest time and you don't see anything, it's a total kick in the nuts almost.
It makes you feel like you let your fans down a little bit too.
A little bit, yeah, because like I've had so many people comment. I have people that I work with that maybe not be super big into deer hunting. They're like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you post any deer hunting video. I see your podcast videos, but where's the action on the deer?" I'm like, "Fuck, good luck. I ain't seeing it out here." You know what I mean? When you spend more time than anybody can possibly imagine in the woods behind your camera, and you don't get anything on film, it's depressing.
Yeah, it's funny, and you kind of know the background of like filming and all that. You may watch a 4 or 5 minute YouTube video, and it might be hours of film.
Absolutely, people don't really think about that, and it's crazy because I put that one video together. You can check it out on our YouTube. The first week of archery season, my first 2 hunts or 3 hunts or whatever it was this year, I got a decent video out of it, just because I saw more deer in the first week of archery season than I saw the entire rest of the year. I mean, it's just that crazy. It's that bizarre of a year.
How do you deal with that frustration?
I have to get past it. I mean, so many people would have gave up. So many people would have moved on. Some people would have went solo or did this and did this and did this.
Yeah.
But I just had to kind of grunt through it and just say, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. I have to try to get this on film because I want everybody to see what I'm passionate about. But to a certain extent, man, it just absolutely killed any momentum or self-esteem that I had in myself at all.
Is that just that kind of leads me into my next thing, like how to stay positive and all that when none of that stuff seems to be working? Is just like a day-to-day thing. Like yesterday
Absolutely.
didn't work out. Like today's a new day. We're gonna try to.
And I'm a big DeerCast app guy. I really pay attention to every aspect of that. I know they really work hard on their algorithms when it comes to that. So I'd be like, hey, Ryan, the DeerCast app shows great this weekend. Both days. We got to hit it hard. We got to get in there. We got to stay late. We got to stay on it. Let's really work hard. Let's pay attention to our cameras the next couple of days. Tell me what you see. I'll tell you what I see. Let's grunt through it. Let's really get on them this weekend. And we would do that. And that really never paid off for us, even the slightest bit, which is so depressing.
How do you guys decide who's going to film and who's going to shoot? I mean, is that like you guys draw straws before every hunt? Or
no, it's really just kind of like a play-by-ear kind of thing. Most of the time, it's me. Most of the time, it's me behind the camera. But honestly, he stepped up a lot this year and was like, hey, you bring your bow. He would tell me before I met up with him. We meet up in this parking lot kind of like halfway between our houses. And he'd say, hey, you bring your bow tonight. And I was probably behind my bow maybe 3 times in total in the month of October, which one of those days paid out for me. But I've probably only been behind the weapon probably 6 times this year with the cameraman on me.
So I don't know if we've covered it, but Ryan is the guy that comes on your podcast and hosts with you sometimes.
That's Adam. Ryan's been on my podcast.
Yeah, Ryan's been on.
Yeah, he's been on a couple times or once or twice. I can't exactly remember. They run together all now, but he's trying to get into the podcast game. He's a really busy man when it comes to work. He works a lot, and then he has some side work that he does to make some money to deer hunt and duck hunt and stuff. But he's actually in the midst of him and his fiance have a property and they're building a house and a barn and stuff, and he's actually talked about building a badass podcast studio in his brand new barn. So I say at some point he's probably going to become a full-time host on this show. So I mean, I love having the neighbor on. You've seen it last week with my episode. He was a natural.
Yeah.
I wish I had 5 microphones here because I really have multiple people that would be good at hosting with me. I'm not saying I'm a perfect host by any means, but I can normally navigate the conversation, keep it going, keep it interesting, keep it enough where you want to listen again. But if you add those other components in there, it makes it really interesting because you get such a mixed cocktail of different people. You have me. I'm used to hunting private land. I focus on certain deer. I'm mostly behind the camera. You have Ryan. He's semi-new into bow hunting, loves it, likes to jump behind the camera, mostly private land. Then you get Adam, my neighbor, you could send him anywhere. You could send him in bumfuck Egypt. And this guy comes back with, well, I saw 130 tonight. I passed on him. It's like, what the hell? It's just like a mixed bag of people that you put together that are good buddies that make up Blue River Bowhunting, that make it such a unique place and a company to be around that just makes it fun. Like, I can't wait to get you up here at some point. Deer hunt, duck hunt, coyote hunt, whatever it is we do. You have to meet these people because you'd be like, wow, I see why you guys put this all together because you guys just flow so well together. Even we might be total opposite type of people. Yeah. You put us in a hunting atmosphere and we've thrived together, if that makes any sense.
I'd really like to see you guys. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you guys need to get a show with all 3 of you. I don't know
absolutely.
how you get another mic or whatever.
I don't know how I'll figure that out, but we'll figure it up somehow.
So does Ryan have his own camera? You guys using your camera?
Nah, we use my camera. He bought the GoPro, which is a newer one, not the newest model, I think, but last year's model. I don't remember what number that is, 8 or whatever, 9 or whatever, which gave a really unique perspective. If you see it in our video that we posted on the first week of archery season, I have it actually attached to my camera arm, but pointed down at him. So when those 3 bucks went underneath our stands, it actually comes with like a watch remote, and I have it put it on my wrist. And I turned it on, and you can see that buck like walking underneath us from that view. The lighting is a little off because it's right there at the edge of darkness. Yeah. But it was really cool. That's why I'm saying, like, we had such everything lined up to have such good footage for the entire year, and it never paid off for us whatsoever. It sucks, man. It really does.
So your season did turn around. I know you. I remember this specifically. I don't remember the date, but I remember texting you during the day, and I don't remember why. You may have got off work late, or it may have been hot out, but I was trying to kill this 10 on some public right down the road from my work, and I'm like super amped. I had him like at 5 yards the day before, and I'm like super amped, like go, 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 go. And you're like, I don't know, you're like getting down in the dumps, and you're like, I have it wrote down. It says, I'm not sure I'm going to go hunt today, is the text you send me. And I don't know if I went hunting that day. I may have. I feel like I did, and I didn't see anything. But I got a text from you, and you said, I shot a buck.
All right.
And I was like, I'll be damned. He said he wasn't going today.
All right. Well, like I said, I film Ryan 80% of the time, 70% of the time, and I film Adam the other 30% of the time. Whoever can go that day. And throughout the week, it is hard. And the date was actually October 27th. And the reason I know this, obviously, because I was successful, I've killed on the same day 2 years in a row, which is wild to begin with. Same day, But nobody could go that night. So I got, like I was texting you, and I actually made this decision, funny as it is, in the shower. Which sounds funny, kind of, but I'm in there, and I reach my hand out, and I have 2 options, the Old Spice or the Dead Downwind. And I'm like, What the hell? So I grabbed the dead downwind and I texted the landowner, which is not even a mile from my house. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna come hunt your property tonight." I always let him know because this is my first year hunting there, only my second time ever hunting the property. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna be there." I always give them a heads up so they don't pull in their driveway and think I'm robbing the house or something. But I get there, I get everything. I start getting my bow out. I get dressed, put my harness on, blah, blah, blah. And I reached for that camera bag, and I kind of hesitated. I say, you know what? I'm just going to go have fun. Fuck this camera. Screw everything that I've been doing the last month. Something's got to change for me, and it's got to be this camera, I guess. So I left it there. Had a great old time. Didn't have to worry about carrying this camera and this big-ass bag on my backpack. I just had my bow, and I took the little backpack this time. So I get up in there. I jumped 2 does. They were literally bedded underneath the tree that I was getting in. Like, they jump off and they take off, and I'm like, this season cannot get any worse for me. So I climb up in the stand. I hurry up and get up because they took off, and they actually didn't know what was going on. They actually circled kind of back around me, and I'm watching them, and I was texting you and a couple other guys, and I just happened to look over, and I see it because it's, at that point in the season, we still had some greenery on the trees. All I see is the horns going through the brush, and I'm like, oh, wow, that actually didn't look like a bad buck. So I'm sitting there, and I look behind me, and there he is. And I'm like, you know how it is. You got to make that decision. Am I going to shoot this deer or not? And he was borderline on what I would normally shoot. And I was like, man, I don't know. He don't look bad. And then he turned and looked my way, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to shoot this deer because I haven't had a whole lot of luck this year. I'm never behind the bow to begin with. And then he played this cat and mouse game with me. He was walking directly at me, but he was coming from directly behind me. And he would make a movement to his right. So I would scooch all the way over like he was going to come to my right. And then he would kind of turn and graze back the other way. So I would scoot, turn back the other way. And I'm like, this deer is fucking with me, I feel like, And I'm back and forth on the tree 3 or 4 times. And he actually caught my ground scent from where I walked in. And he kind of did this little hobble deal, like a little trot. And he turned and he looked, and he was at 10 yards. And I was like, you are done, son. So I pull back. I have him directly in the line of sight. And I couldn't even tell, but my bow hanger is directly in front of me. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. So I let down, and he's kind of still standing there. And I move the bow hanger, pull back again, and he's still standing there. I smoked him. He ran 50 yards and did a face plant, but kind of did a face plant down this ridge towards the road, which made it incredibly easy to get this deer out of the spot because all I had to do was drag him about 40 yards to the road, which was great because I got some hellacious dragon stories from this year that I've helped people drag deer out, and it was awesome, man. Is he the biggest deer I've ever shot? No. Did I have I was shaking. I mean, I don't know if it was just I didn't have the experiences throughout the year leading up to that, but he had me shook up. I mean, I was shaking. When I shot him afterwards, you do one of those numbers where you just can't even control yourself and you're shaking. I hung my bow back up and I don't know if you've ever seen the TikTok of the guy that goes fucking nuts in Arkansas or whatever it was when he shot the.
Yeah.
I felt like that guy. I was just wanting to let it out and I called a couple people and say, I shot him or whatever. And then they come help me drag him out, which was a whole experience upon itself. And it was a surreal moment. I mean, obviously, like I said, and I'm not going to defend myself by any means. This deer is not big, but he had me shook up like I just shot a 180-inch deer, and that is why people should bow hunt or continue to do things that they love. I would never make fun of anybody or buck shame anybody because I'm nobody when it comes to shooting deer. I'm just a regular guy like anybody else, and that deer got me shook up. I loved it. I loved every aspect of it. I was still shaking an hour later when I got to the truck.
Do you feel like your season like really played a part in you deciding to shoot that buck? You said it was kind of borderline, and you
It
ended up
was it
shooting
was
him.
borderline, and I haven't scored him yet. I took him to get European and mounted. Um, I'm guessing somewhere in like the uh, 110 range, maybe somewhere around in there. But honestly, he had me shook up like he was a 180, and that's why we continue to do the stuff that we love. When you get shook up like that, that's the reason why we all do it. You know.
Do you think if you had been seeing, well, I guess you had been seeing consistent bucks, but um, do you think if you did you feel like you feel like it was just time to end it, or was it just like kind of like a decision
It
in the
was just
moment?
in the moment decision that
Yeah.
was like, hey, I'm having a blast doing this. I want a story to go along with this, you know, and I did it. And I wouldn't say that I regretted it, but later on I checked a trail camera from down below where he came from, and I have about 4 deer on that camera that make him look like a midget. Which is funny, but just like me and the neighbor talked, because he backs me up on everything. When he comes, he said, "Dude, I've never heard you shake like that in your voice when you called me." And we checked the trail cameras, and I'm not gonna lie to you, we got like 190-inch deer in this woods that I didn't know about
Mm.
until a month later when I checked the camera, which it's part of the story, you know. But I definitely learned my lesson when it comes to that when you're chasing some of these mature deer, but I don't regret a second, and I would probably do it all over again just because it had me so shook up and it was such a fun hunt. You know, I saw 3 or 4 does, and then him to make basically like a full circle on me. He was down in this ridge, and he circled all the way behind me and came up the ridge. I don't know if he was feeding or what he was doing, but I ended up shooting him. You know, couple hours later.
Did you feel a sigh of relief?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was like I never didn't think I was going to get on a deer, period, you know, and honestly, I haven't seen a buck of that caliber since that day.
Yeah.
I haven't
Sounds like you
seen.
made the right decision.
That's kind of what I feel like. I'm honestly the neighbor would probably make fun of me a little bit just because he likes to give me shit, but it was I don't regret it, and I think I maybe made the right decision when it came to that.
So when you shoot a buck in October, you still got some time left. What's that mean for you usually? You're behind the camera, I guess.
Usually, yeah, that's what that means. And we had the second week of November already scheduled off work. We already kind of had it planned out. I mean, we talked about how we would start it off because we were going to take. Uh, I think the first day of our vacation would have been November 6th, which is actually Ryan's birthday, and the 7th is my wife's birthday. So they wanted to do something for their birthday together, and we talked and talked and talked, and we've had this dream for a while to go to Ohio. And he says, "Let's go to Ohio." I'm like, "You don't have to tell me twice, dude. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready right now. Let's go." But we obviously had to make it through the weekend because of birthday obligations with the wives and all that. But Monday morning we were out of here.
Let's go into that. So you've never hunted Ohio. Why Ohio?
That's just been a dream of mine ever since I was little. I can remember watching, real tree videos or, videos here or just listening to people talk because I actually don't live too far from Ohio. So I've heard of people going over there before and all these stories that are here, big deer everywhere. The deer population's so big that you won't have any problem seeing deer, this, and that. And I was like, it's always been like number one on my list. And I was like, let's go. And he was like, well, how do you want to do this? I'm like, let's just go. You research some land, I'll research some land. So we're researching some properties. And I found a fish and wildlife area over there called Woodbury. And Woodbury has overflow camping, free camping. So I was like, hey, we have free camping. We have a free place to stay. Let's go. So he borrowed a enclosed trailer from his cousin. It has cots and stuff in it. We ended up taking our tents with us, and we set up camp, and basically just went in blind. We did obviously some virtual scouting before we got there, but it was kind of a wing it moment, which doesn't happen very often when it comes to whitetails, when it comes to either one of us, because we're a very prepared personnel as a team to go into a situation, you know.
Did you run into the hunting public guys over there in Ohio? I know they're always going over to Ohio.
We didn't run into any of them, but apparently the week to go to Ohio is the first week of November, not the second week like we went. And apparently there was a lot of people there the week prior to us. We found that out later on. We ended up going into town one night, which is about a half-hour drive, to have dinner one night because it was raining. We didn't feel like winging it that night. So we wanted to go get a good bite to eat. You know, we're kind of on vacation, so we wanted to treat ourselves a little bit, you know. And we went to a little nice steak restaurant, and we was talking to the waitress and all that. And she said, "You guys missed it. You know, everybody was here last week." She said, we were so swamped in the steakhouse every night that, you know, we couldn't even keep staff in here because there were so many people in here. And we're like, well, wow. No wonder, you know, because you could definitely tell that it was very pressured. And that came into play several hunts that we had, which, like I've explained many times, I'm a private land guy. I've never had to deal with that kind of thing, which I reminded myself why I don't have to do those things, because I don't like them.
It's enough to make you want to pull your hair out sometimes.
Absolutely.
Did you have any expectations for Ohio? Or
no, I tried to keep those expectations as low as possible. You know, when you obviously you're going to watch videos on this and this before you go, get yourself pumped up, give you that little bit of edge to keep your curiosity and everything up, just to you know, keep that excitement there for yourself, you know. And it felt like we left on Monday, we came back Friday, and it felt like every day was one of those days where we ran into a different problem, or, you know, just a whole different story on each day, which made it exciting. But then again, I still love my private property.
Can we touch on some of those problems? I'd love to hear some of the obstacles maybe you fought.
Well, the first day we get there and we set up our camp. I set a tent up. He sent a tent up. We have the enclosed trailer and everything. And I took a climber with me. He took his climber, and we took a blind just in case we needed it at some point, which I'm glad we did. So I go to climb the tree, and I got that big backpack on me because I'm going to be filming. And it's a big backpack. You know what it's like. You got one of those too. And I start climbing up in there, and my climber just feels a little weird. I start to climb. I'm probably 6 or 7 foot off the ground, and all of a sudden it just seems like it wants to fall on me. So I look down, and I kind of scooted myself down to the base of the tree, and he's like pointing at me. I can't hear him because he's probably 20 yards away or so, and he starts coming down too. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And I look down, and the part of my climber that grips the tree, it's a Summit 360 or Viper or whatever it is. I don't use it very often, but it had literally 45'd. Like, I had put apparently too much weight on it, or whatever that is that you want to call it. I don't think it should do that in general, even if I put too much weight on it. But at 45'd, like, I couldn't even climb the tree. If I'd have been up any higher, it could have been a really bad situation for myself. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? I'm 3.5, 4 hours from my house. What am I going to do? So I'm planning on just kind of hunting from the blind that we had brought. We had a nice blind. I was going to let him still hang out in the tree, you know. And I actually have a buddy over there, Austin Grider, and he brings me another Summit tree stand. So I hunt out of it, but at this point, I didn't want to bring the big bag anymore. I didn't want to put too much weight on it. So I hunt out of a climber for the next couple days, see some deer here and there, nothing crazy, had some encounters with some people walking in on us. And all right, I'll tell you this one story because we got plenty of time to do this.
Okay.
So we scouted this place, this one area. It looked awesome. I mean, we walked as deep as you can possibly get on a piece. Found some really nice looking rubs, some ground scrapes, everything. we get going in there. I said, I'll sit here. You go down a little bit further, and you sit there, probably 300 yards or so. So I get up in there. It feels like I'm in Kansas or something. Like, it just looks so prime. I'm so jacked up. Don't have to worry about a camera. I got the bow hanging. You know, I'm locked into the tree with my harness. I'm feeling good. All of a sudden, I see a guy come up out of nowhere, out of this bottom. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, he came from the total opposite direction of where we came from. He waves at me and goes on. I still got 2.5, 3 hours before dark. And I'm like, I guess this is part of it. I'll just, kind of shrug it off and keep going at it, keep myself pumped up. All of a sudden, I hear this guy screaming, Dave, where you at, Dave? He just, hollering. I'm like, what is this guy doing? So he comes running. And when I say running, I'm talking about full-on Olympic sprint through the woods with a crossbow. Fully equipped with everything you can possibly think of. He sprints past me, and I'm just kind of like watching him run by me. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So he gets up to Ryan, and I can kind of see the silhouette of Ryan. I see Ryan throw his hands up. I'm laughing at him, and this ghost he yells again, hey, Dave, where you at? I can hear Ryan go, hey, dude, shut the fuck up and get out of here. And I'm just losing it, So he's texting me. He's really mad. He's like, dude, let's get out of here. Of course, it was the last half hour of daylight. Yeah. So we get down. We make it back to the truck. We actually see some deer up in this little clearing. And we have like 2 days left. I'm like, dude, that was the worst hunt I think I've ever been on. We're laughing, kind of playing it off. We're having fun with it, too. We're drinking beers at campfire, cooking deer steaks and hobo dinners over the open fire. We're just having fun with it, Try not to let it get to us a little bit. I said, hey, let's go up here on that hillside where we saw those deer when we come out of the woods tomorrow evening. Because we kind of had a morning spot already picked out where we saw some bucks chasing does and stuff a couple days before that. And, so we go up there the next evening. At this point, I'm trying not to let anything get to me, and I'm trying to do things that I wouldn't normally do. So I've been burned on a climber. I've been burned on being hotter than heck because I'm sweating so much trying to do so many things. And we get out of the truck and we start getting dressed, and I'm kind of giggling. He goes, what are you laughing about? I said, I'm going to do something I never thought I'd say I do. I'm going to deer hunt from the ground tonight. He's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, watch me. I'll go right up in there and sit on the ground. So we go up in there. We get up on this hillside, go up in like this big ridge, and he goes left and I go right, and I find me this little saddle on a ridge. I find a rub. I found a ground scrape. I found just a bunch of signs. So I kind of like tucked up in off the side of the saddle and some bushes. I have a stand for my bow that clips on my limbs.
Oh, yeah.
So I put that on my bow, and I actually have it sitting on the ground, fully nocked, ready to rock, and I'm sitting ass on the ground. And I'm just sitting up against this tree having a good old time, blah, blah, blah. He sends me pictures. Dude, we walked, I bet, every bit of a mile more into where we were at. Didn't think anybody would even know, even close to where we were at. Like, I went through thorn thickets and, big ridges, and I didn't think anybody would ever find me if I died, you know what I mean? And he texted me a video of this guy walking through the woods with a crossbow. And I texted him back, kind of laughing. I said, is that Dave? Just laughing or whatever. So this guy kind of, runs back off or whatever. And
was it the same guy?
No, it wasn't the same guy. I thought it was, but it wasn't. And I'm sitting there, and I'm still sitting on my ass in the bushes over here. And I see a couple does come up this big ridge. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I finally get to see some deer while I'm hunting, So I'm watching these does play around. And I'm at the top of, like I said, the saddle in this ridge. And down below me is like this big bowl. And all I hear is brat, 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 brat. It sounded like somebody almost playing with a grunt tube. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Is that a buck grunting? Because that sounds like a buck grunting. And I'm kind of keeping my eye on this little bowl. All of a sudden, I see antlers coming up through the thicket. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I had already kind of removed all the leaves around me so I wouldn't make any noise if I moved. Mm-hmm. So I kind of get to my knees, I have my rangefinder, and this buck comes up the draw. So me and Ryan are texting. I'm saying I got a buck coming. I got does around me. And at this point, we're almost on like the just shoot it basis because we're leaving in like a day and a half, and we're just kind of having fun with it at this moment. And I'm like, should I shoot this deer? And he goes, you should do it. Shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. I'm like, okay. So this deer comes up the ridge. I whip out the rangefinder. I range him 41 and a half yards. And like I said, I'm sitting in like a sticker bright, so there's only like little windows you can see. He gets in this little window. I range him 41 and a half yards. I draw back from my knees on the ground. I smoke this deer. I mean, absolutely annihilate this deer. He spins his whole first 60 yards that he's running, his face isn't even coming off the ground. He's so messed up, running down this ridge. And when I hit him, it went through, but it hit the opposite shoulder, so it was like a real loud smack. What I didn't know was there was a guy sitting 40 yards from me in a climber. And he goes, boy, you just smacked him big time. I'm like, who the hell are you? Where'd you come from? He goes, I got here about 3:30. I said, well, I've been sitting here since 12:30. He goes, I didn't see you sitting there. I said, I didn't even hear you climb the tree. That's how, I guess unaware that I was at the moment. But it was just like, and he was cool. He was like, congratulations, man. I mean, it was just a little basket rack, but one of the hardest earned deer I've ever shot in my entire life. And, it was fun, and I would go back and do it all over again. But, Woodbury Wildlife Area in Ohio, y'all got a lot of people hunting out there.
Did that guy get down and help you, or
he got down and kind of talked to us because we ended up meeting him at the truck, and he said where we were parked, we did it on purpose. Where this little parking area was at, we parked on the opposite side of the street. So I don't know what we were really thinking, but we just wanted somebody to know that somebody was in the area, Yeah. But he thought we went on that side that we parked on, but we had actually went on the other side of the road. And like I said, we walked probably a mile and a half to where we were at, all uphill through thorn thickets and everything you can possibly think of. I mean, I have a brand new scent blocker thermal hybrid suit, and I have to have it. I'm going to have it sewn up a few times this off season because I went through so thick of stuff that it just was ripping my clothes off of me.
Wouldn't it be funny if that guy was a YouTuber and he got the footage?
That would be crazy. I thought about that later because I could have probably got it on film had I had my camera on a tripod, but it was hard enough to just get the shot off. 41 yards through a thicket from my knees. And have time to range him. And, this deer didn't run 80 yards. He went down in this bowl, ran towards the truck, sort of. It still took us forever to get him out of there. And it's crazy because we got him to a certain point and we gutted him. And then we went back to shed clothing because we were so hot, We're, usually the second week of November, you got some decent weather, like maybe highs in the 30s, 20s, somewhere in there. The highs was in like the 60s.
Yeah.
We didn't have the best weather. So, we're trying to shed clothing. We come back, and it looked like a bear had attacked this deer. I don't know if coyotes got a hold of it.
No kidding.
Bears, something got a hold of this deer and ripped it damn near in half. There wasn't anything left of it.
Wow.
It was crazy. I wish I should have took pictures afterwards, but we were so dumbfounded when we got back. We were just so worn out from walking all this way and going through all this thick stuff. I tagged the deer, but I didn't get anything off this deer.
Yeah. How long were you guys gone?
We probably an hour and a half or so.
Oh, wow. That's not
because it took us a while to get back and then shed clothing. We talked to the guy at the parking spot. We drove down the road a little bit and walked up this ridge. We actually had to go through like a wetland almost to get to where we were going. And time we got up there, there was hair and blood and fur and shit everywhere. It was crazy, man. I never experienced this trip. Was a whole experience upon itself.
I run into that situation a lot where I shoot a deer that's far back and I've got to go get a cart or I've got to go get my truck and drive across the field, whatever it is. I've got this thing and I don't know how well it works, but I always take an extra headlamp or like another flashlight. I like to lay them up on the deer
Oh,
and
that's a
just
good
kind of
idea.
like put light around it because I know coyotes are real skittish. I've never really had issues with it, but it's just like something in my head that tells me like
Right.
maybe that'll help me out. Um, the public game, are you gonna continue on that? I mean, it
I
sounds
think
like you
so,
had a
man.
lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun, but is it frustrating? Obviously, because I'm not used to that, And we've talked even a little bit. I want to do a thing with like me and you being the YouTubers and that kind of thing. I want to do like a Blue River bow hunting public land challenge next year, and like have some guys get together, camp out together somewhere, hit some public land and have fun with it. But like also obviously you still have that the difficulty of hunting public. I don't
Yeah,
know how those guys do it on the hunting public. I honestly I don't know how they do
I spent a lot of time doing it. They've
it.
perfected their craft. I think
Absolutely.
I yeah I applaud those guys. You feel like that's made you? I mean, I know it's only one time, but you feel like that'll make you a better hunter, hunting like
Absolutely,
that.
because I was texting my wife after I shot that buck because I was still elated. Honestly, it's one of the smallest deer I've ever killed in my life, rack wise. And she goes, "Well, how did everything play out?" And I told her that I shot it from my knees on the ground at 41 yards. And she goes, "You're joking." She's kind of laughing about it. You're not going to hunt from the ground. And I'm like, no, baby, I really did shoot it from the ground. Like she's laughing because she thinks I'm messing with her because
Yeah.
that's just not the type of hunter that I've been on my entire life. I love hunting from the air. I love being, whether it be a climber, a ladder stand, a lock on, whatever it is. I like having that advantage of being up in the air.
If you were gonna do it again, but you were gonna go in with a stand, what would you go with? Would you go with a climber? I know
No, I would
sometimes
probably
just
go with climbing sticks and a lock on because I
yeah.
love being in a lock on. I have lock ons that I'm really comfortable with. And
Hmm.
I feel like if I needed to move it, I could at a certain point, going in there with and I could have filmed a lot more because if I had that stand set up, I could have easily got all my filming equipment. After the climber messed up on me the first day, I never got the camera back out of the bag.
Yeah.
I wanted to have such a, I was there for a week. I wanted to put like a video together, like this is our trip to Ohio. This is what, we experienced. This is the troubles we had. This is where you know, came to get. Did I shoot a 190-inch deer, Ohio giant? No. I shot one of the smallest deer in my life, but I had a blast doing it.
I
It was a fun trip.
I really like my climber. I love my Summit, but my God, sometimes carrying all that camera gear and water when it's 80 degrees
It's not
outside and
even
all.
something that you want to do. You do it once and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that ever
I
again.
mean, you're just completely. It's like you just ran a marathon. You're
Oh,
sweating so bad.
absolutely, and it's 60, 70 degrees outside of what it felt like.
Yeah. How was it walking in all that way with no equipment? Really, was that
It
nice?
was awesome. When I shot the deer from the ground, all I had was this little backpack and my bow.
You feel like you're missing
I
something.
could have walked a million miles, because I didn't have anything holding me down. Was I still sweaty when I got to where I was at? Yeah, because I kind of climbed up some. I mean, I went up ridges where I had to like almost get on my hands and knees because it was so steep, and I still ran into people. Like it was just unbelievable how it played out. I just
Everybody's got that same mindset. If we go further, nobody else will be back here.
And usually when you're done hunting, even at home, you drive around. We call it driving around the block. Looking for, how everybody else is doing or looking for deer. And you normally see some deer out in the field during the rut. You know what I mean? You always see deer running, chasing a doe through a field, or just some does eating out in the field, or a buck, bedded in a fence row somewhere or something like that. I felt like this year in general, it didn't matter if I was in Indiana or Ohio, we just didn't see deer like like that. Like we drove around, I can't tell you how many, you know, gas we burned and, stuff like that while we were there just trying to look for deer. We didn't see shit. I
That's
mean, it
really
was crazy.
that's really interesting you say that because I saw more bucks chasing does this year than I ever have
Now,
in
was
my
that
entire
during the
life.
rut or was that during the pre-rut?
during rut.
Really? Because
Yeah,
I saw more action pre-rut than I did during the rut. During the rut, I didn't hardly see anything.
I was opposite. Pre-rut, nothing. Yeah, it's weird at just how sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time, I think.
Absolutely, for sure. And what put salt in our wounds even more than that. We didn't hardly have any reception while we were there. Like, you were basically off the grid while you were there because you might get cell service here and there, like when we went to town to get gas or beer or whatever, and we would get our phones would light up, and he has this deer midday 20 yards from his tree stand in Indiana that probably grosses 160, 170. And he's like, are you kidding me? I'm in Ohio, not seeing a dang thing. And I got this giant 20 yards from my tree stand in Indiana.
Do you think you'd go back to that wildlife area? Or you think if you go back to Ohio, you're gonna try something new, try a new
I'm
area?
probably going to try something new. The area
Yeah.
is unbelievable. I mean, where we were at, it just looks like something that you would see on TV or in a storybook type of speak. The ground looks incredible. You're like, oh my God, there's got to be big deer everywhere. But they're so pressured. There's so many people there. I mean, I think there was 27 campsites in this overflow lot, and they were all taken but 3. And the one down from us, they had a big camp. There was probably 15 guys in camp.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that was kind of a cool thing too, because they would get going at night and have the fire lit up over there. You can hear them kind of hooting and hollering, which it didn't last very long because they all got up pretty early. But we kind of made friends with with our neighbors down there. They were from Pennsylvania. They were both tagged out in Pennsylvania. Both shot nice bucks down there. But it was a father and son. The father shot a deer the same night I shot one, so we came back. We're kind of telling stories about it a little bit, and it was kind of a fun experience on that end. The adventure part was amazing. Just the deer hunting part wasn't that great.
Did you exchange numbers with that guy so you can get him on
No,
your show?
I kind of told them about the YouTube and the podcast and all that, and they were very interested in it, but we didn't exchange information by any means.
Why do you feel like so many people go to that piece of property?
We did a lot of research, and you look up top public land hunting in Ohio, and it comes up like top 5. And maybe that's just something that somebody else researched too, and they found, hey, there's free camping, let's go check it out. I mean, there's like 30,000 acres or something. It's like you could just kind of park wherever and go wherever, because it was just land everywhere and big ridges, and I mean, it was wild. But I think maybe just people. I mean, it was all out-of-state guys that we were running into: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan, Kentucky. I mean, there was people from out of state. It was all out-of-state guys. I didn't see all but a couple trucks that had Ohio plates on them.
What's something you learned this season that you feel could help people out?
Honestly, and it's gonna sound funny coming from you because we've already talked about it a little bit, but I've been a big rubber boots guy forever. I've worn mucks my entire hunting career, basically rubber boots that I love. And my neighbor got me. He said, "Get you a pair of hiking boots to take over with you to Ohio." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll try it out." I got me. It wasn't. I didn't even spend much. I think I spent like $50 on this pair of camo hiking boots. I will never go back to a pair of rubber boots unless I have to cross water. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I'm sure people are laughing at me right now talking about it. But they're so comfortable compared to wearing a rubber boot. You have the support, the comfortability with the whatever sole that's in the boot. I mean, I felt like I could have walked 10 miles and not had a problem. I mean, it was that comfortable. I haven't switched back to rubbers since. I mean, both pairs of my rubber mucks are in the garage and haven't seen my feet since.
Do you see? I always feel like I've kind of wanted to drift that way too, but I feel myself always walking through a ton of water, so I'm kind of like scared to go that route. But at the same time, my thing is not so much comfort, but I feel like my feet just freeze in those rubber boots. Even the even the insulated ones, because almost like as far as you walk, your feet kind of sweat, and then next thing you know, you're sitting on a stand and your feet are freezing because
Yeah.
they're wet. But
Yeah, I got those Muck Arctic Rangers or whatever. I mean, they're rated to -29 or something like that. But I've been in some really cold situations here the last couple of weeks with getting in the December, late November, and my feet have not gotten cold once in those hiking boots. I mean, I'm wearing obviously like some nice thick wool socks, but my feet have not gotten cold once. Like not even close to being cold.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna look
Dude,
into that.
you don't even have like I said, I spent like $50 on these boots, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I don't know if these are gonna work out, and I kind of tried them on, and they felt pretty comfortable. But once I got with like the climber on my back, or just when I had the bow and the backpack and went in there to hunt the ground, like I was so comfortable on my feet, and has been a change of pace. I mean, mucks are comfortable for the most part, but it was like a whole new comfortable, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially when you have a lot of weight. Like,
Oh,
I mean, by
absolutely.
the time you get a summit, even an aluminum summit on your back, and water and camera gear and snack and whatever else you need, it's like you can be getting upwards of 40, 50 pounds on your back like pretty quick.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, not to like have regrets or anything, but if there's one thing you could change about this season, what would it be?
Um, Personally, it would probably be take the stress off myself of putting too much pressure on myself to get all these videos and put everything together like that. And I think it would have turned out better for me if I would have just relaxed and had fun with it like you're supposed to. Like the
Yeah.
day that I went and killed the buck, I didn't have the camera. It was like good old Brett. I just went out in the woods by myself, climbed up in a tree stand, didn't have a care in the world about anything, and just had fun with it. And it turned out to be my best hunt this year.
Um, so season's not over in Indiana.
Yeah.
So what's your plans now?
Basically just stay behind the camera for a couple weeks, depending on how it turns out. Filming, I guess, the next couple weeks. I think muzzleloader season's December 4th through the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. I think those are the dates. And I think if nothing happens before the 19th, I'll probably be done. I'll probably switch gears, get my waders out, get my floating gun case out, and try to get on some of these ducks because that is fun. It's a change of pace. It's a whole different universe. You know, you know, everything starts freezing up, and we hit some of these rivers and cornfields and start smacking these birds, and it can be fun, but that's short-lived because the season doesn't last very long because it came back in, you know, before Thanksgiving sometime. People that are in the waterfowl game, they've been doing it for a couple weeks now. While we were still focused on the deer, they still been chasing ducks. And I think I'm just going to kind of switch gears and have fun and chase some birds. And then when the birds are done, I'll probably switch to a high-powered rifle and maybe start chasing some coyotes around.
Cool. Maybe I'll get you back on the show in the spring or something, and we'll go over some of that waterfowl stuff. I haven't had anybody on about waterfowl. I don't know anything about it. I didn't grow up doing it. I wouldn't know
Mm-hmm.
the first thing to do. So I'm sure there's other people like me that you could probably help out by
Yeah,
giving
well,
all that info to.
I learned to waterfowl hunt really kind of where you live,
Oh,
like the
really?
southern Indiana, Evansville, Vincennes.
Oh,
Uh,
that's right. You went to Vincent's College, right?
yeah, I went to
Yeah.
Vincennes University, and that's
Yeah.
where I learned to duck hunt. And um, as far as it kind of changed my life really, because I was so focused on deer for such a long time that they took me out, and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be real fun. We're gonna be standing in water looking for little ducks, and then it's like, oh wow, I think I might like this more than deer hunting, which it kind of took over my life for a few years, but it'll never replace deer hunting. That just has like a special place on me.
Are you going to take the camera out, I guess?
I might. I actually. It's hard on certain places because I don't want to drop that
Yeah.
camera or even get it close to water. But we do have some dry fields that we hit that the geese hit pretty hard, which would be fun to film. But I don't know, man. Maybe the GoPro or something, which would be fun. Maybe try to mount it to my gun or something, which would be kind of fun.
I'm not scared to take mine near water. I won't shoot, but I'll film.
Yeah, come on with it, dude. I bet you'd have a blast. You would really like it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know we've been trying to kind of line this out. We've both been
Right.
busy. The rut's been on. I've been trying to kill deer and etc. So, can you tell everybody where to find you on social media if they want to link up with you? Maybe
Absolutely.
potential guests for your show, or they just want to get some info from you.
Absolutely. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, just about any place you can have a social media account. We have one, Blue River Bowhunting. We have Blue River Bowhunting Podcast. Go on there and listen to some episodes, and we'll have you on here sometime soon and get you on there, which it'd be kind of cool. Roles reverse and interview you a little bit. But yeah, that's about anywhere you can find us at on social media. I was going to ask you, do you turkey hunt?
So I didn't really grow up turkey hunting. I actually went a couple years ago. I went one time, had no idea really what I was doing. Kind of got my head in the game and thought I was going to go to Kentucky the next year because the bird population there is just like across
Absolutely.
the river is just
I go there,
much better.
I go there for a week every year.
Well, I decided to do that during COVID and waited to buy my license, and they shut
the out of state down.
So I didn't go that year, and then last year we were doing some work on our house, so I was like, oh, I'll skip trying to do that because I got to get it done so I can focus on hunting in the fall. So
Right.
Didn't go last year. So no, never shot a turkey. I'd love to, but I don't really know a whole lot about it.
Even if we don't somehow get a YouTube collaboration this winter on some other stuff, maybe we can team up and chase some birds. I know you guys got a lot more birds in southern Indiana than we do up here.
Yeah. Where do you go at in Kentucky?
Actually, it's right off Lake Cumberland, near Somerset area.
Oh yeah.
I got some property. I own some property down there, and then my family has quite a bit down there, and I've been quite successful down there chasing birds.
How come you're not going down there and bow hunting? I have to ask you that before I let you go.
I can't get away from my Indiana deer hunting. It's a lot different here than it is down there. Them deer don't get very big down there, at least that I've seen, anyways.
All right. Well, it's kind of late. I'm sure you got to go to work tomorrow, so we'll cut it off here. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I look forward to seeing how your waterfowl season goes.
Hell yeah, appreciate it.
Yep, we'll catch up. See you, man.
Yeah, see. Thanks, everybody.